Ready to go? So, like I usually, before I start a meeting, if you have a cell phone, please either turn it off or silence it. Make sure I've done that as well. Okay. So I will call to order the special meeting of the Oregon City Commission for March 6, 2019. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Rachel Lyle Smith. Here. Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
Here.
Mayor Dan Holliday.
Here. So we did 6 or 7 interviews last night. The last one is Miss Denise from Griff. Griff.
Ready?
Yes. So we have a set of questions. They are there before you. If you had a chance to watch the meeting last night, you've already seen these. So I will just start. Tell us about yourself and some of your community activities, your experience with local government and community service, and why you wish to serve. And start with your name, please.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me in today at this particular time. My name is Denise McGriff, and I have been a resident of Oregon City since 1988. I do want to backtrack a little bit and tell you that the first time that I came to Oregon City was in 1973. I was visiting some friends who lived in Clackamas County, and we came downtown, and I was quite charmed by the town. Several of the places that I went to while I was here visiting was Mateel's Man Shop, so I'm dating myself a little bit. We also went to Munoz because I'd been hearing about the fantastic maple bars. We stopped in at Rude's Jewelers, and then we also went to visit the courthouse. I also got my free Oregon City elevator pass, which was signed by, matter of fact, one of the names I remember on it was Elaine Woolsey. And I still have that to this day. So I was delighted when I was invited to come back to Oregon City in 1988 and apply for a job as a city planner, and subsequently received that position and promptly moved to Oregon City, which was really just where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in the town that I was working in. Some of my community activities, you have my resume and I listed many of them, but I want to let you know that my community activities go back to probably elementary school and high school, where I did a lot of volunteer work as a high school student. I was involved in some things as an elementary school student. When I went to college, I immersed myself in the community that I lived in at the time. And then when I moved to Eugene to go to graduate school, I got myself involved in the South University Neighborhood Association, because I wanted to know everything I could about the place that I probably was going to be living for 4 years, which I ended up doing that. I have experience in being a community volunteer. I have experience in being a civic volunteer, and I have experience in being a professional volunteer. And when I say professional volunteer, my resume, I listed that I'm a representative from the state of Oregon, representing our great state on the Board of Advisors for the National Trust for Historic Preservation. I have served in that position since 2009, and most recently was the Vice President for the Western Region, which is everything west of Colorado, working with different states and different communities. As you can probably tell from my community involvement, I am very much in favor of community involvement. I spent 8 years as the chair, on the committee for citizen involvement that is represented through the Department of Land Conservation and Development Commission, and served for 3 years as its chair. I believe very strongly that a strong citizenry really contributes to the vitality and livability of a community. And that is the base at which I come from. While I was employed by the City of Oregon City, obviously I couldn't volunteer too much, but I did attend the neighborhood meetings that I lived in at the time. I lived in Berkeley Hills, and there was a neighborhood association at that time as well. And I attended the meetings as a resident. And when I subsequently purchased a home in Oregon City, I moved to the McLaughlin neighborhood and started attending their meetings as I could, because most of the times I was either here at City Hall planning at the Planning Commission meetings, Urban Renewal Commission meetings, sister city meetings, or city commission meetings. So I didn't have a lot of spare time at that time to get more actively involved in the community, but I did what I could while I was working here. When I left the employment of the City of Oregon City, I took that as an opportunity to get more involved in my community. Why I wish to serve, at this time, I think that Oregon City is really on the cusp of reinvention and a new path. And I speak specifically about the Willamette Falls Legacy Project. During my term as a planning commissioner, we were intimately involved in that particular project, and I had toured that site many times while it was operating as a city staff person. So I was very intimately familiar with it. I find that that project is really going to cement our reputation and really put us on the map. We're already on the map, which is great, and I'm very, very happy about that. But I think that is one of the reasons why I wish to serve. And I also have a very broad breadth of experience that I think would be beneficial to the commission in terms of my local government experience, my private sector experience, and my experience on the national level.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Lyle Smith.
All right. What do you see as the three most important issues facing Oregon City over the next 2 to 3 years? And do you have any suggestions for how the city could meet or overcome these challenges or opportunities?
Well, I would say that there are probably more than three, but I think my top three are, number one would be infrastructure, and not necessarily in that order. When I say infrastructure, I mean not only the public facilities infrastructure, particularly transportation. We are in a deficit in terms of funding to keep up the existing roads that we have. Many of them are breaking down to a point to where, you don't even want to drive on them because they're going to damage your vehicle. But I think also in terms of infrastructure, in terms of our employment. One of the things that I am very excited about and hoping to participate in is the redevelopment of the Beaver Creek Road corridor where we have campus industrial development. I think that that is going to be the key to our continued success, as well as the Willamette Falls Legacy Project. And that would be my third one, which is us taking the lead in jump-starting the Willamette Falls Legacy Project. And when I say us taking the lead, I mean in the sense that we should, as a city and community, be actively looking for development that would meet our criteria. And when I say our criteria, I am not interested in our city being looked upon as sort of easy pickings. I think we have the right to say who and what we want developed in our community. And I think there's a really interesting way that we could get about that. We'd poll our community, we'd talk to people, we'd talk to other governments, we'd talk to private sector folks. But I think we have an opportunity to go out there and find the very first project which we could use as a jump start to get that project off the ground. And I'm talking about the private sector part, not the Riverwalk. We're already doing a fantastic job on that. So those three things, including livability, in order for Oregon City to stay Oregon City, I think we need to do more to promote the livability of our community. It is, as I see it, a great place to live. But we have a lot of people that spend a good part of their day, as I did for 17 years, leaving our community, transporting themselves all over the Portland metro area because they can do it. So how can we look at providing employment infrastructure to help people get jobs in Oregon City who live in Oregon City? And that's going to be a really tough nut to crack, but I think we have other partners in our metropolitan area that we can rely on to assist us, to get advice, and then we have to chart a path on how to get there to achieve that.
Okay. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Third question, Ms. McGriff, is simply, what is your view of the overall economic health of Oregon City? And what do you think we, as a city, can do to promote economic development and overall business development, including assistance to existing businesses?
I think that the economic health of Oregon City is, if I was to take a checkbox, I would say it's good. I think we can do better. As you're aware, I spent 17 years working for the City of Portland's Urban Renewal Agency. And one of my primary responsibilities was to work with small businesses to provide them with assistance. And when I say assistance, we had the ability to give them grants and loans. We also were always on the recruiting end of looking for businesses that we could possibly assist. So we did a lot of business development calls. We would stop in just in the particular two areas that I worked in, which was the Central East Side, which was the industrial district. And then I also was responsible for projects in the Interstate Urban Renewal District. That was not quite as industrial, but it was more mixed use with more residential. I think the thing, and I know we're in the process of recruiting for a new economic development director, and it will be one person with an assistant, so it's not like you've got a cadre of people like PDC does. But I think that we could be more proactive in not only talking to our businesses to find out, well, what do you need? And I want to give an example. I was very much an early supporter of Portland Cider. They were in the industrial area up on Beaver Creek Road. They didn't tell anybody that they needed to expand. And I think that if we had known that they needed to expand, we could have assisted them and kept them here in Oregon City. They are now in Clackamas at, you can see them from the freeway, but it's kind of like, how do you get there? And I asked them, because I know both of the owners, and I said, did you by any chance talk to the city about your needs, that you needed to expand, that you outgrown the space? And they said, no, we didn't even think of doing that. Missed opportunity. So it's things like that that I think that we could do a little bit better job. And it's not only going to be the economic development director, I think it's kind of the responsibility of most of the staff. If you see a new business or you come across a business, ask them, hey, how are things going? Is there anything that we could possibly do? And maybe we could develop some additional programs through the Urban Renewal program to assist not only small businesses, but the medium businesses. And again, I think we're all aware that the day and age of the big business that comes to your town and solves all your problems, that's a myth now. And since publishers, see, that's how far I'm going back. It was publishers when I moved here. So since Blue Heron closed, a lot of people would say to me, oh, I'm so glad that thing is gone. Well, I said, you may have thought it was messy. You may have thought it was smelly, but those were jobs. Those were people who were buying things, who were spending their money here in Oregon City, and they were making a difference. It also provided a great deal of tax revenue for the city, as I'm very aware of. So I don't think we're going to snag another one of those, but what I do know about economic development is that small businesses are the ones that we need to put some of our dollars into, because they are the ones that are generating the jobs. They create more jobs than any other business entity in the entire sector.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
How do you address the fact that the city commission sometimes made, it says sometimes made, I just caught that.
Makes.
I think we corrected it,
We
but
did.
I didn't. Well, I'll start over. How would you address the fact that the city commission sometimes makes unpopular decisions, and how would you relate to individuals whose opinions differ significantly from your own?
Well, coming at it from a citizen involvement background, I have a favorite saying. Citizen involvement means that you have the opportunity to participate in all phases of your government, but it doesn't mean that you always get your way. I think that there are always going to be people in our community, no matter what you try to do, are going to disagree with you, and they're not going to really understand what went into the decision that you made. In order for people to understand that, it's a two-way street. They have to take some initiative to try to understand what is going on in their own community, and that's really hard. If you're working, you got kids, you got PTA, you've got all these other things. But I think rather than looking at it from a reactive way, it's better if we try to be more proactive. The decisions that you have to make are not easy ones, and you try to gather all the facts that you can in order to make that decision, not only by what your staff is telling you, but you try to take a pulse of the community. And I think if people felt that they were asked what they think, and that again, that's a whole nother ball of wax on how you get them to participate. But I think if people felt that they were listened to, it's really hard to disagree with somebody if you know that they heard your viewpoint, took your point of view into their consideration, and then they made their decision. But I think explaining some of the decision-making might be more helpful. Again, you're always gonna have those detractors. It doesn't matter what you do, there's gonna be people who are gonna say, oh, they don't listen, or oh, they don't do that. And so when I hear that in the community, because again, as you probably heard on some of the planning commission tapes, I get stopped a lot in Fred Meyer. It's my favorite gathering point in life now. I go to Fred Meyer and I must see half a dozen people that stop me and ask me about something, or they'll talk, and I always kind of put it back on them by saying, well, did you happen to see the video, or did you read any materials that were online, or did you get more information? And then my big question is, have you attended your neighborhood association meeting to find out what's going on?
Okay,
Thank you.
so I will go. Have you ever individually, as a member of an organization or as a representative of a neighborhood association, sued the city of Oregon City or the Oregon City Urban Renewal Agency?
I have not. My neighborhood association has appealed some decisions of the city commission. Did not attend any of those meetings that those decisions were made in. I recused myself because I felt that as a planning commissioner, it would be inappropriate for me to participate in those discussions, and so I left the room, as did my fellow planning commissioner, Damon Mabey. So we both did not participate in any decision-making that occurred at our neighborhood association level involving any appeals or potential suits. So I personally have not.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Donnell?
You've actually summarized quite well your involvement in the community, so I would view this question as an opportunity to elaborate. In the event that you are the successful candidate, what have you done to educate yourself to critical issues facing the city and prepare yourself for the duties of the commissioner position?
I have been very fortunate to be in a very unique position, very much unlike anybody else in this community. Having been an employee of the city of Oregon City for 8.5 years, I have a very keen understanding of the processes that the city uses. My favorite, of course, is budget time, and I say that facetiously. I did not like the budget process. It was not fun, but a necessary part. At the time I was employed with the city, we were a lot smaller, and so we did a lot of double duty. As I said, I attended sister city meetings, I attended the OCTA meetings, I attended city commission, planning commission, urban renewal commission. I was also staff for the historic review board. We didn't really have a parks and recreation committee at that particular time, but working with all the we worked cross-departmental. We were small enough you could walk down the hall and talk to anybody. So I understand that part of the process. The other side of that is after I stopped working here at the city, I had the unique perspective from a citizen standpoint to where, as I've mentioned before, you get people who want to make negative comments about things that are going on at the city. And I say, well, okay, let me explain to you as a former staff person, here are the things and here are the types of issues that we as staff had faced. So put yourself in those other shoes so that you can understand where things are going and how things have to happen, because there are processes and laws that we have to follow. So it's not as easy as people want to make it out. They either want it to be black or white, and it is not black or white. It is very much gray, and I'm not saying gray in a negative way. I'm saying that it depends. There are certain things that have happened. So I think having that perspective has really served me very well in terms of the work that I've gotten involved in the city, all the committees that I've served on, even the ad hoc ones. One of the things that I'm very proud of is the expansion to the library. There was a lot of negativity in my neighborhood about that project. And we approached it from the standpoint, and I say we, the steering committee approached from the standpoint that we wanted to work with the city. And I participated in every single meeting that we had with Maureen and the architects. There were lots of ideas thrown out on the table, and when we started the process, we probably had 80% of the people who said, no, we don't want it. By the time we got done through the involvement, we had 80% the other direction, and that was a win in my opinion. Because we knew we weren't gonna convince everybody, but we told everybody that you will be heard, you will be listened to, and you will have an opportunity to put your comments forth. And when the comments that came back from the architect said, well, we investigated this, but here's why we couldn't do it, people were satisfied with that. And we really turned a lot of people around. And I think that that is the same process that we use with the Willamette Falls Legacy Project. And it was exhilarating. It was long, but the process worked its way through and we had a fantastic result. And I'm so happy about all the awards we got for it, of course. So I think in terms of that, those are the types of things that I can bring to the table. I see myself as primarily a listener. I want to hear differing viewpoints. I want to know about the diversity of opinions. You know that as a planning commissioner, I did my homework. I read everything. I ask questions. And if I have other questions, I will go back to staff and ask them questions. And I have, again, a lot of empathy for the work that they do because I've been there. I know what they have to go through. I've had the opportunity in the last 10 years to work with almost all the department directors, Phil Lewis, John Lewis, and we always can come to, we can bring issues to each other. How do we solve them? Here's what the solution is, and how can we move forward? And I think I bring that strength to the commission. I like to see a diversity of opinions. Sometimes I might play devil's advocate, but the diversity of opinions, the diversity of opportunities that are here in Oregon City are limitless. And I think that that's something that I can bring to you to make this city even better than it already is. And as I said in my application packet, Oregon City has given me so much more than I can ever repay. And if I can do something in a small way to make a difference here, I really want to do it because one person, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, we can make a difference. I have seen it, and it's real.
Commissioner Lyle Smith.
Okay, I think we need to return to question 5.
Yes.
What are the strengths you would bring to the city commission? Any that you haven't already mentioned?
And I haven't already mentioned. Well, I think being a woman is a big asset. I consider myself to be very empathetic. I am truly concerned and I care about Oregon City. I'm very proud to say that I'm from here, and when I'm traveling on behalf of the trust, they say, oh, Denise, she's from Portland. I go, oh, no, excuse me. I am from Oregon City, the oldest incorporated city west of the Missouri River, and I'm very proud of that, and I let people know that. Many of you know that I'm very much a preservationist, a conservationist. I bought a house, an old house, from one of our former planning commissioners, Harry Gehring, who his family's been here for years, because I felt it was important as a staff person, if I was going to be talking to people about regulations, I was doing that myself. I followed the same process that they had to follow. And you would not believe how many barriers that I was able to break down with that. And I said, yeah, my house, I have that same problem. Here's kind of what I did. What do you think? So that's kind of what I bring. I think I can break down barriers. I can talk to people. I listen. I don't make decisions quickly. I want to get all the facts. And then once those things are presented, I think decision-making becomes easier. Maybe not always as easy as you'd like, but easy, because you've got a lot of information.
Okay, Commissioner Smith.
All right. Is there anything else that you would like to tell us about yourself? And then do you have any questions for us?
Well, other than what I've already told you. Again, like I said, I care very deeply for the community. I'm very proud to be a resident. I was just telling Bob Mahoney that I've lived here longer than I've lived any place else in my life, and that includes my father's military service where we traveled around. So I think I've kind of set down some roots here, and I think that's okay. I think it's good. I think in terms of questions for you all, I think that I think in terms of our financials, you know, we're not getting any more taxes. We don't want to raise taxes. I think that we've got some issues that are coming up that we need to address. I know that the police department issue that got put on the water bills is still a little hot with some people. Matter of fact, I just heard about it yesterday again. I know that our Parks Department is sorely in need of facilities, and the new facility on First Street is going to help some of that, but the backlog in the infrastructure. So I guess the question is that without polling and just being extemporaneous, you know, does the commission have any stomach for looking at a parks bond? And this is not holding you to anything, because obviously we need more information, we need more facts. But I'm aware that, I mean, I've been very aware, and I was talking to Phil and I said, geez, you know, you're saying the same thing that Dave Fish said when I started working for the city of Oregon City. So that ball has not moved.
Well, we've certainly talked about it at the last retreat, and
As a topic, yeah.
we're looking at different options, but, you know, we certainly haven't come to any decision.
No, I understand that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will adjourn this meeting. We're gonna do a dinner break, and then we'll be back at 7 PM for the regular city commission meeting.